Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I am live here in studio. I guess it's not live to you at the moment, but I'm recording live in studio in Austin, Texas with the one and only SOC, straight out of Compton. Heather, how are you?
What's up?
I am so glad you're here. And we're going to continue with our interview of you, which has taken us on so many different directions that it is, I don't know if it's actually even worth trying to go back to where we were, because we're going to go a completely different direction. But I do want to kind of wrap into one thing, and we're going to get into, I've been trying to get to us to finally sort of hone in on some principles that got you business from two people with $20,000 to two people with $2 million?
Close, yeah.
Okay. So at least business-wise, like you're running that much volume and money's going in and out.
All the things.
And all the things. And I know that I love entrepreneurs, and so I just love the risk that you guys took. I love the story of you guys just kind of in the basement, struggling, and then you took big leaps and the Lord blessed it, and you were clinging to his promises the whole time. Anyway, I do, if there is one, I don't know if there's, whenever you go to one thing, it ends up being 100 things, but just let's start with, there's a couple things too that I'm now doing, my brain just went like 100 different directions.
It's like a hamster on the wheel.
Yeah, it was a hamster. So I'm going to start with this. Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And we've talked about your marriage. We talked about how that's been painful but awesome. So talk to me about some of the principles that got you to success. You're talking to entrepreneurs. You're saying, here is what it takes to make it.
I would say first and foremost is do the research. Like if you're going to do this, if you want to do this, because it sounds really good in theory. I can't tell you how many people have messaged me like, God really wants me to do this business. And I'm like, does he though? It's kind of like people are like, God told me I need to go to another church. I'm like, oh, really? Does he though?
Yeah.
Oh. If you're not willing to put in the work, to do the research, to figure it out, meaning if you are already messaging people before you have done any research to ask them what their magic trick was or what they did and how did they get started. If you're asking people how did they get started, then you're already not willing to do the work because you want to find out what somebody else did so you can just copy and paste. And that is laziness.
Wow. Okay. So, all right. So let's say I have a budding entrepreneur, whether a lifestyle apparel brand person,
whatever they want to do,
or they
boutique.
They make donuts.
Right.
So for them, probably the smart thing to do is to go get a demographic research study of where you're at and what your people, give me that. What do you mean?
Yeah, basically, no, you have to know what you want to do. And if it's whatever it is, you have to go, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to sell. This is what I want to make and sell, whatever it is. Right. So then you have to do the research into cost. What is this going to cost you?
Okay.
What is this, what is your investment? How is it going to be on your end? There's a lot of, God wants me to do this, so he's going to provide everything. No, that's not necessarily the case. Will he open doors for you? Yes. Will he show you things and direct you? Yes. But it's the same thing. It's like if I hold the Bible up to my head, I'm not going to learn anything by osmosis. You know what I mean? I have to do the research. I have to get into his word. I have to study it in order to understand it. And if you're not willing to do that with your business, then it's not going to grow either. So I think a lot of people...
you were giving us a Luke 14, count the cost of discipleship, count the cost of entrepreneurship kind of moment here.
And that's why you're here. So the osmosis has not worked for me, clearly.
Well, that counting the cost, what politician man builds a tower without first counting the cost, or else he'll start and he can't finish and everyone will make fun of him.
Right. So it's just like when you guys, started to build the new, the new location.
Right.
It's not like you guys just said, okay, well, we're just going to, pray that God's going to give everything to us. You had to have an idea of cost, location, taxes, HOA fees. Like you had to do the research on that before saying, are we going to be able to go through with this or not? And that's the same thing with anything else. And even then, if you didn't know, like, well, where do we get that info? You had to find somewhere to get the info, then move forward with your contacts and figure out from there.
So I think what most people do as entrepreneurs, let's say they're making, whether it's bracelets or shirts or whatever the thing is, they feel like, man, I have a something I want to share with people, and they're like, they don't think from a consumer standpoint, they think from a producer standpoint. And I think what you're saying is that to really produce well, you have to have people that are to know your audience, to know your consumer.
Partially, yeah. So you need to know who you're selling to, but the thing is, how many other people are doing what you're doing, and what makes you any different, and why do I want to buy from you when I can get it from this person?
Right.
And are you doing market research? So if you want to sell this and you understand that the investment is this, and you go, wow, to really make a profit, I need to sell it at this, but everybody around you is selling it $2 cheaper. Well, then what are you going to do to overcome that? If you have to sell it $2 more, then you have to make that $2 more attractive to somebody else. So then what are you doing in the meantime? Because your promotion of it could win somebody over. If it's really cool, somebody's going to go, wow, that promotion made me laugh, or that, there's so much research that you have to do behind it, and just asking somebody without doing any research. It's one thing if people come to us and say, hey, I watched these Google videos on this, and I watched these hours and hours of this, and I read this book, and I read this is where I'm getting a little tripped up. That's one thing,
right?
It's another when somebody goes, what did you guys do to get started?
That question is so broad.
There's so much that we did to get started. And, like with us with apparel, we knew getting started, we had great ideas, but we knew that we would not be able to afford the investment of it, meaning we could not buy all the shirts and get them screen printed. So we did print on demand. So there was another shirt company, and there are shirt companies out there that do that, where you can go to them and say, I have these ideas to put on shirts, and they will print the shirts and ship them for you. So you only get a percentage of the sale, but at least you're getting
you're not
money.
Holding inventory and stuck.
Yeah, but understanding also that you are putting your name, your design, everything else in somebody else's hands.
Right.
So if they don't ship on time or anything else, you can't turn around and go, well, it's not my fault, it's theirs. No, it is your fault.
Right.
That you put your trust in that company failed, therefore you're the one at fault.
Right.
So there's that, and that's the problem that we had. We started with a print on demand company, and it was great at first. And then we started getting contacted by people that was like, it's been 6 to 8 weeks, I haven't gotten my stuff yet. And so we went back to them. We're like, what is going on? Well, we were just this little side thing for them. They had their own company, and they were like, well, we got really busy with these sales on our website. And we're like, we're still paying you. Like, you're still getting money from us, but our stuff wasn't a priority. So we ended up taking, I think it was like $800 some odd that we had, like everything, like groceries, everything. And we scraped that together to buy out the remaining stock that they had of our product.
But didn't they fail to meet up to their end?
100%.
So why couldn't you just say like, all right, we're done?
Well, we didn't want to be done. We
we're done with them.
Oh, we were done with them.
But but you had to buy them out. I don't know.
Well, they had inventory, so they had things that they had already had that had our stuff on it. They just weren't doing anything with it because their stuff was a priority. So we bought out what they had left and brought it in house, and that was, I think.
And that's when you started just shipping everything
on our own.
And so that's where, that had to have eaten into cost.
Absolutely. So people all the time, they're like, I can't believe your shipping costs so high. I'm like, I don't make these costs. The post office makes this cost. A lot of people, when you buy something from a company, you get frustrated because of shipping, but the company doesn't get the shipping. The post office gets the shipping. The UPS gets the shipping.
Right.
They're getting paid for that.
Right.
So does the money are we a conduit for it? Technically, but we don't, it goes straight to paying for shipping.
So, and this is the big question. Well, how does Amazon do it? Well, they have Amazon Prime. So many bazillion people are doing it. And,
we get compared. People are like, well, I got my stuff from Amazon in 2 days. I'm like, there's 2 of us. Like, good for you. Go to Amazon, know. But shipping costs, there's wiggle room on that. So there are some companies that I look at and I go, oh my gosh, you're charging $8 for shipping. You're just trying to make a profit on shipping. Shipping for like one t-shirt for shipping is anywhere from $3.95 to about $5 depending on the location, because California, it costs more to ship to California, it costs more to ship to Maine. There's crazy differences in shipping across the country.
Right.
So that's your average. So if you're looking at $8 to $10 for shipping, you're getting ripped off. But again, you have to look into all these costs. So a lot of people, when they get started, they're like, oh, I'm going to do free shipping. And I'm like, yeah, it sounds real good.
On the front end.
On the front end. Until you realize how much money you're losing, and you'll go real quick. People change their mind.
Right.
I've seen a lot of people that are like, well, they've done the research and they're like, well, I'm going to offer free shipping. And I'm like, okay, well, have fun with that. And then they come back to me a month later and they're like, this costs so much. I'm like, yeah, no joke.
Have you ever thought, and then this is just, again, being ignorant, have you ever thought of just adding the shipping costs into the price of the shirt and then it looks like free shipping?
Yes, but that would be, so you're adding almost $4 into the cost of a shirt. And so if you're doing market research around the area, so like we will compare shirt companies that are similar to ours. Like people are like, oh, what's your competition? Right. I'm like, we don't compete when we dominate. But so people that are similar to us, we look at what their costs are and we try to stay in that same not time frame, but at the same cost as them. So if we were to eliminate our shipping, then we've got to add that cost onto the shirt. So you're adding $3 to $4. And right now, most shirts are in our arena, most shirts are between $25 to $30 right now.
Oh, wow.
So if we add $3 to $4 to a shirt and the cost range,
now you're at $35.
Now you're at $35 and people are like, I'm not going to pay for that. And we're like, yeah, but it's free shipping. So if you have to explain why your cost is what it is, if you have to, basically beg your customers to go, no, but listen, this is why it is, then you're not doing a good job. We don't have to beg anybody to buy from us.
Okay, so talk to me about promotion. Let's say you've done the research, you've kind of got a good base, and now you're like, all right, I'm ready to go. What's step one of the social media piece? Does anybody blog anymore? Is that a thing?
I mean, yeah, like we have a blog. Uh-huh. I mean, but it's attached through like our website, and also we have a newsletter, not a newsletter, but like an email blast that goes out, which has the blog on it.
Looks like a newsletter, smells like a newsletter, but we're not going to call it that. It's good.
Right, kind of, yeah. It doesn't have all the, it has all the links to everything, right, but you're not going to get all the info there. So, but we didn't start there. We just started on social media, and we did a lot of research in regards to algorithms and the changes, and you have to be on top of that, because especially now, oh my gosh.
How do you stay on top of social media without falling into the trap?
You got to do the research.
Social media. No, I guess
Google. Not Google.
I guess here's what I mean.
Like YouTube videos.
Like I guess what I'm saying is, how do you do social media without becoming social media? Does that make sense? I guess what I'm asking is, like, how do you not become addicted to the very thing that drives people into their insanity?
Well, you have to define addiction. You know what I mean? Is it going to take up time? Absolutely. And so people will be like, you're always on the phone. Well, yeah, if that phone is money.
Right.
So if this is the business that you want to create and you want it to be successful, you have to be willing to do those things. Churches fail miserably in social media.
Absolutely.
Because it is so time consuming.
It is. You need to have, this is where, especially in small church world, you have to either have a volunteer kind of committed to that.
Right.
Or you're paying somebody probably in the larger church world.
Right.
And
even then, if somebody's doing it for free, they're not really, most of those people aren't up to par or speed on what is changing in social media. They're just slapping a picture up every now and then, not understanding that with the algorithm the way it is, posts don't.
I definitely would be the one that would just slap a picture up.
Posts don't travel anymore. Stories do. And even above that, reels travel more than stories now. And that's the craziness of this, is that you have to be able to recognize that and stay in tune with that, or else slapping up a post is not going to get you into the algorithm. It's not going to get you seen by anybody. And that's the thing, is that you don't want to become addicted to it, but that's what society is. They're addicted to social media.
So you might as well get people addicted to the truth of Jesus. And so we've got to, as Christians, we need to be able to present truth in a way that people are reading it. It's like if the orality is out and book printing is in, then print a Bible. If social media is in and I don't know, whatever.
What did Jesus do with the disciples? Did he say, hey, let's all hang out here and then occasionally hope people come to us and listen?
Right. He went
to them. He sent them out. For what that time frame was, he did what was required to go out to the masses. And what's required now is social media to go out to the masses, because it's like it's like watching WALL-E. Everybody's sitting in these chairs I'm serious. Nobody goes out anymore. Newspapers are irrelevant. Everybody gets everything from online.
Yeah, well, so here, when people come to our church, and just in case anybody's wondering if our lawn's being mowed, it is.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, good job. One of the things that I have noticed is that most people come to our church not because they are invited, which used to be like when you ask people like, so-and-so invited me. And we should be inviting, so I'm not down on inviting. But most people come to our church through Google.
Yeah. Google,
like they Google church near me.
Right, church near me. And then the other is when people drive by also, I've had a lot of people say that they've seen the church and then they looked it up. So they're like, well, I saw it and then I Googled it. And I'm like, yeah. So again.
So location obviously matters. And then presence on internet matters. Right.
So, you have to make your package attractive for when people do go there. That is it what people want to see? Is it eye-catching? Is it, for what you're presenting?
I thought what was pretty funny on our last baptism video, this line didn't make it into the video.
Are we talking about Foo's baptism?
Yeah,
This was amazing. We had this great baptism on Sunday.
Yeah, what was your life like before Jesus? Normal.
It was normal.
Pretty normal. Yeah.
What was it like after? It was better. Still normal, but it was like better normal. It was so good. It was so
real.
good.
I was like, but one of the lines that didn't make it was he goes, so I looked up, church near me and I saw Wells Branch. It looked really sketchy, so I thought I'd check it out. And I was like,
sketchy, yeah.
All right. Yeah, we are in a strip center.
Which is like a strip mall center. We
Yeah.
don't have a strip club, but we do have a bar next to us. So there's that. We roll with it.
We do.
Good.
And if this is like one of the things that when you're marketing for people, hey, our children's ministry is down past the bar.
Yeah, just keep walking. Don't mind the cigarette butts. So we actually try, we have guys now that are working on sweeping all that up in the morning and stuff because the bar leaves a lot of trash out.
I do appreciate that you've really taken that on. That's been
it's
a real
good. But again,
really
presentation is everything.
And especially when we are where we're at, and so we're going to do the best with what we can.
So I would say that a lot of it is you have to be committed to doing a lot of market research, a lot of research online, you have to be able to, just go to YouTube and type in your question.
Okay. And I love that. I feel like that is what people don't understand is that all the information is out there. If you're wanting to start your own business, the only thing preventing you is not information, it's effort.
Right. It's just like working out.
Yeah.
If you're not going to put in the work, it's not going to happen. And so people, a lot of it I don't understand. And so I'll hear these things about, like if you're going to advertise on Facebook, you need to have Facebook Pixel and you need to understand how Facebook Pixel works or else you're just throwing money into the wind. So that's a free one. You're welcome.
Look that up.
Yeah. So if you do not have Facebook Pixel, it is. So what Facebook Pixel does is it's basically this kind of thing that Facebook does where they will it's like throwing out a line, you're fishing, right? So they're going to throw out the bait for you and whatever starts hitting, then it takes that database and starts building, hey, these are the people that you want to advertise to because this is who's responding. And they like this. These people go to this page all the time and they shop for this. So then you can start building up who you want to advertise to based off the information that Pixel is gathering for you. And Pixel is free. So it's just complicated. You just have to do the work to research it. And that's one of the things that Brian did in the very, very beginning. And Pixel is what we were able to advertise to. This guy's doing a great job with the leaf blower outside right now. I'm just letting you guys know. So
we are in a strip center. If you didn't know that,
right.
We're killing it.
So many things. So he was able to really capitalize on the knowledge that he learned about Facebook Pixel based off of watching YouTube videos and learning from there. And so a lot of people will pay a business to advertise or do things for them regarding Facebook advertising, Pixel, etc. And we that was a huge cost that we saved because people will pay people thousands of dollars to do this, marketing companies, thousands of dollars a month to do this. And that was a cost we didn't have to do because we did it ourselves.
Oh, that's huge. Okay. That I feel like we have done entrepreneurs everywhere a huge favor and maybe
welcome.
That was covered up by Mr. Leaf Blower. And if it was, then you weren't meant to hear it. So I want to shift.
Stop blessing you with the info this day.
That's right. I want to shift to something that you posted recently, which I thought was fascinating.
Let's do it.
We're going to move from entrepreneurship to church world. Talk to me about I think it was in a reel.
No, stories. Instagram stories, which my Instagram account is also partnered with my Facebook account. So what the stories that I post on Instagram will also post as stories on my Facebook. It automatically goes to both pages.
Okay.
So I don't have to double post.
Yeah, way to go. Yeah, that's a nice
That's
thing
another
about
thing for
Meta
entrepreneurs. There you
owning
go.
Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Okay. And their stock has not been doing well. Just throwing that out there.
Right.
Okay.
Twitter.
And no, but everyone.
That's I know. We're going down this
We're
rabbit hole.
gonna take. I want to talk about what you talked about. You asked some questions about leadership and serving. So
Right.
So talk to us. And I was sort of shocked that, not that you're not Christian, because obviously you're 100% in on that. But you have a lot of people that maybe aren't following you.
Of people.
And so so as you go into this, I would love to hear what your percentage of believers and respondents were, and did you tune out, or did people that weren't believers go, what are we talking about?
No, so one of the things that I get a lot of responses on is that I am not ashamed or afraid or worried about sharing my faith. And I also don't hide who I am either. So I'm like my brother calls me the Samuel Jackson preacher, because I'm pretty colorful. So you're going, like I told you, it's like Thanksgiving dinner in a Southern family. You're going to need stretchy pants for this one. So there's a lot. It's a lot. So there's a lot of colorfulness.
Heather, you know what's fun about you is that you have like a lot of old man jokes that come out of your mouth, and it doesn't make sense, but it makes it extra funny because like I know many like 65-year-old men who would say that exact line,
right.
and when they do it, it's like oh gosh.
It's
but when you
like,
say it, it's really funny. And
like
cool.
Dr. Phil says a lot of good things. Dr. Phil, who's not a doctor, by the way, he says a lot of funny things like, oh, well, I'm on that like a duck on a June bug. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I like the way it sounds.
Yeah, that was great.
So I wanted to know, as being in leadership, one, in my business, and two, in the church, because I'm over a ministry for like the first impressions here, which is like parking lot, greeting,
all the glamorous spots.
Right. It is. It's fun. I wanted to know I wanted to have a better understanding of why people aren't serving, because to me, it makes no sense. Like, I don't understand why people don't serve.
Right.
Like, I just feel like that's a given. It's just like breathing for me. It's what I have to do, not as a requirement, like, oh, I have to do this. I want to do this. And so I don't understand the lack of passion in that with others. So I wanted to have a better understanding of that, because to me, it's just when I look at it, I go, I don't get it. Why aren't you serving? And then people are like, meh. So I wanted to get, with the following that I have on Instagram, it's close to 10,000 followers, right?
Right.
I normally post memes. That's why, because people are like, how do you have that many? It's all
cat memes,
all organic, ridiculous memes. People like funny things. That's what I do. So I put out stories, and so a lot of people respect the fact that I still don't hide my Christianity from people with that. So I'm still very real. I still put things up that are funny to me, but I also get I share my faith. So I wanted to kind of combine these two things and say, okay, let me ask some questions about leadership, which is, what do you think makes a strong leader? And then the second story was, do you believe that there should be leadership in most situations, or even Steven? Meaning, should there be leadership, or should we all kind of like a total flat of the hierarchy, meaning there are no leaders.
Right.
We're all kumbaya. And do you believe in show up and get paid, or work hard for greater reward / benefit? Meaning, show up and get paid is like, I'm just here for the paycheck. That's it. Or are you really working hard for greater reward benefit? So then I asked those questions, and then I followed up with another story that was like, okay, all my Christian friends, all my believer friends.
So the first one was not church specific.
Just
it was
straight leadership questions. That was it. And then it went into like, hey, if you're Christian and you're a follower and you're a believer, these questions are for you.
Yeah.
And so, and there was no break in it. It went into, are you currently serving in your church? If so, how often / not? Why not? Why do you believe Christians are so resistant to serving in God's house? And if you're only attending, what would it take for you to start serving? And those are the questions I asked.
Okay. So what were the responses? And this is sort of fascinating as you were sharing this with me earlier. I was like, wow, people are really honest.
So it was funny because you actually responded to my Facebook stories. So all my Instagram stories, again, go to my Facebook stories. Right. So you were responding through Facebook. So I had responses coming in from both.
Yep.
But I compiled it primarily from Instagram because that's where most people responded to.
Right.
So with the following count being close to 10,000, The stories are only up for a 24-hour period and then
Right.
they disappear. In that 24-hour period, I reached about 330 to 350 accounts.
Wow.
So that was 330, 350 people that were
They
responding.
were looking for cat memes, and then they got this.
Yeah, and so they interacted and responded. So over 300 people, right? And then 98% of those responders were people that followed my account. So that's not just followers of Christ, that's followers of the account in general, okay? And then 2% of that were non-followers, meaning they don't follow my account. They just happen to get into my stories, which your stories can show up if you're an open account, not private. Your stories can show up into a primary feed. If you get enough interaction, they're going to throw that out there. So I'm assuming that's probably what happened, which is why I got this 2% that were non-followers.
Okay.
So the interesting thing, the fascinating thing to me is all the leadership questions. No problem. Everybody answered those. Boom, 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 boom. All about leadership. What makes a strong leader? Your strength, strong, adaptability, compassion, confidence, communication, conviction, humility, consistency, decisiveness, accountability. Like all these, there's like 30 things here. And that was condensed. Like everybody
had an opinion on it.
had this is what makes a strong leader. Like they were all, everybody.
And they wanted it.
Right.
100%. No even Steven people.
And they all went into, they agreed, not one person, not one out of all the people that responded, not one at any point said that it should be even Steven, and not one said that it should be no leadership, that it should be even across the board.
Now, I will say the people that follow you probably are not the even Steven people.
No, I have some even Steven people.
Okay, all right,
I actually have a lot of friends that are very liberal types.
All right.
And so but it's fascinating. We go back and forth all the time in a very respectful and loving manner. So I love the fact that they interact with me.
Okay, so
but they even
didn't-
agreed
okay.
there should be leadership.
All
So
right.
people were saying natural instinct is to seek and have strong leadership.
Interesting.
Somebody else said packs have an alpha for a reason.
love
Without defined leadership, you have nothing more than organized chaos. So that was, that. And then the work harder, even Steven, they all responded that effort equaled more reward, and that one should always work hard. Not one person stated the opposite or an opposing view when it came to leadership.
Right. Okay.
So we go right into serving, right?
Yeah.
And that's when it's like, wah, wah, wah. Like immediately.
So this is serving in the church specific.
Serving in the church specific. So we went into service specific questions, and it was amazing to watch the mood and the attitude change. So many people were like, yeah, leadership, and yeah, this is what makes a strong leader, and there should be
And they're
leadership.
talking about church leadership.
Well, I don't know if that.
Okay.
Because the way I put it out there was leadership questions in general.
Then you shifted to.
And then I went, hey, church people, let's go
Okay,
here.
yeah, got it,
So
yeah.
it was kind of like the bait and switch, like pulling the tablecloth off real fast, right? So they were like, so all my Christian friends they're like, yeah, leadership, woo, gung ho,
Yeah.
work hard. And then it's like, why don't you serve? And they're like, oh, I don't know if I like this anymore. Like, ugh. So the conviction was real in these answers.
So talk to me about this.
So the mood changed quickly. Most only answered why they weren't serving or why they believed Christians are resistant to serving. They didn't have any reasons like, what do you think you can do to encourage serving? Nobody responded with that. So I did have a lot of people say that this made them think that they were going to try and find a way to serve. So the conviction was real. So a lot of people did go, okay, I really need to do this.
Right.
But a lot of people had so many excuses and resistance to
What was one of
serving.
your favorite excuses?
There's so favorites. I wouldn't call them favorites.
How about the most interesting? How about
I would say one of the most interesting was I need more teaching than I do serving. So they wanted to receive more than to give more.
Yeah.
And there was one, there's several that were brutally honest that were saying that they just go for the message. That's their time to hear from God. They are not going to do anything else. And that's their time. And that's when they get their message from God. One woman said she specifically goes because that is her feel-good day of the week. And she just wants to feel good. She doesn't want to do anything else. Mind-blowing.
So now listen, here, come as you are. And I do think this is one of the things I want people to hear is like, we're not saying come serve and then you'll hear a message because you don't we want you to pay some way to receive, because that's obviously not God's grace. But when you've received God's grace,
Mm-hmm.
and when you've had Jesus transform you and you become a part of the body, do you want to be a tumor, or do you, and a tumor meaning you just suck resources and do nothing for the body, or do you want to be a hand, a foot, an eye, or a bottom? I mean, all the different parts of the body are important for Jesus to operate. We need all of those elements, but man, I think a lot of people choose tumor, where I suck resources and I give nothing to contribute.
Right. And the fact that the calling out of it is where people just get so upset about it. And that's not them getting upset. People getting upset is the conviction.
Right.
And that there's
Because
nothing
if you weren't convicted, you wouldn't be upset. Like, I guess you guys can feel
I mean, I do have a friend that's like that. Actually, he's like, I don't want to serve, and he's good with that. And I'm like, good for you, whatever. But he did have, good ideas on like, hey, maybe these are things you can do to get people to serve. Like, he had ideas that he popped back at me. He was like one of the only ones. But, the fact that people had like fear of rejection, like I feel like I'm not good enough, or people won't like me, or, there's too many clicks, and some of those things are valid, but, you have to, Jesus died on the cross for our sins, so people always say, well, it's inconvenient. And I'm like, well, I'm sure dying on the cross was really convenient for Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, he died on the cross for you, for all your sins. And it's just like Pastor Joseph's preaching this past Sunday when he said, like, what are you going to do for that?
Right.
What are you doing for that? He gave so much for us, and what are we doing in return? Boom.
There's really not else. That mic drop, walk off, you got it. I do feel like that's the reality that we're facing, is that what happens when you get saved, and this is how the culture will inoculate us. We live in a consumer culture.
Right, 100%.
What I've learned, and this is the part that this is probably the greatest barrier to the gospel being received, is we live in a culture that you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, if I don't pay for it, I don't value it.
Right.
And so what has happened with the grace of God, because it is a free gift, I think people they check that off. You know how you get like the freebies at like you walking through the
Sam's Club, Costco,
whatever.
Right.
Or a convention, you get the thing and you don't even hear them. You just get the free thing. You move on.
The koozie.
Yeah,
That's
you
like,
get the koozie. I got
Bob's
the beer koozie.
insurance, and you're like, I'm glad this keeps my beer cold.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your soda.
Right.
Right.
Well, no. But yeah. So or even for us, I did make a guy do a handstand second service for a gift bag. Did you see that?
No, but
You missed it?
I think we need to do that all the time.
He did a 10-second handstand on stage. It was his first time ever in church.
I was outside. Okay, I was bringing all the signs in. Sorry, I was serving. I was serving.
You were serving and you missed the
But that's
10-second
okay.
handstand.
Just the things I miss serving means the blessing I'm going to get down the road.
Amen.
I'm okay with that.
Well, and I guess the reality was what I mean by all of that is that people are used to getting what you pay for, and so when you make it free, people don't understand that somebody paid for that.
Right.
So whenever you get the koozie, somebody paid for that.
Right. If you go to a tattoo parlor and you pay them 99 cents and then you're complaining because the line work and the tattoo is bad, that's what you paid for.
Right.
So the investment, the return, the ROI, your return on investment is what's going to be your reward. And that's what people don't get. So they're like, oh, well, I don't want to serve because I want to feel good. Well, if you serve, the blessing that comes from that, you're completely negating your blessing that you're going to get from serving because your selfishness.
Okay, yeah. And so then also you're not, again, I'm not going to get into people's motivations. However,
I can.
No,
I'm not a pastor.
If when Jesus dies on the cross for you, and he's risen from the dead, there should be an excitement of getting to serve the one who saved you because and joining his body. And I think what happens for just a lot of people is that they see that service, or they recognize that's a religious idea, but it doesn't weigh on their heart that Jesus saved me. And now I get it. And a lot of people are like, Chris, it is so hard with all the kids and all the children and all the things. And I'm like, fine, on a Sunday morning, if that's too hard, because listen, there's a lot of single moms, like they're struggling to make it even to church. I'm with you.
I was a single mom.
And how'd you make it to church?
I made sure I got up and went to church and I served. It's crazy how that works. There are people here, like Hannity here. My daughter's 11. We come early to set up. She comes in as soon as somebody's in the Live for More Center here, which is where we have the younger children. Yeah. She is in here watching the toddlers of the people that are here to serve and hanging out with the little kids of people that are here early to serve.
That's nice.
So there's no excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuse.
It's huge.
I mean, you can use one, but I'm going to tell you it's not valid, and I'm going to tell you all the ways around it. So I'm not the one to come talk to you about it.
So in other words, if you have a heart to serve, we'll find a way.
Right. But the other thing that ties it back to business is if you can't serve in your church, then you're not ready for a business.
Wow.
That's sacrifice.
Yeah.
So if you can't sacrifice, you're not ready for a business. Biblically, Christians, I'm just saying, I am going to drop that on you. So if it hurts your feelings, that's conviction.
A lot of feelings.
Get into your Bible, and I'm going to tell you what pastors say. You should pray about it.
Pray about that. Check your heart.
Just pray about that.
All right. Well, man. Okay. What else do we want to talk about on that?
I don't know. Do we have the time?
I feel like we kind of need to land the plane on this, but I do feel like that was really cool. Oh, I do want to talk to you about how some of the feedback you've been getting from some ladies.
Yeah.
Is that okay to talk about?
Yeah, no, it was totally cool. I'm just not going to name them.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of feedback the first week from dudes, which was cool. Guys, gentlemen, whatever. They and it was all positive, so I was stoked about that. And then this week, I had people reaching out to me. A woman reached out to me in my social media who was going to the church and has moved to a different location, away. But she reached out to me and said the next time she's here, she wants to go have coffee with me because she just really related to some of the things I said.
Wow.
Another woman who her husband also is not a believer, does not go to church, and that was a great conversation I had with her. And another woman that reached out to me and told me that she could relate to a lot of the things I was saying, and it was just, really cool. And so I really appreciate that.
Well,
but it's always interesting when somebody walks up and they're like, I heard you on the podcast. And I'm like, ooh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. Well, so there are a lot of people that probably do want to reach out to you specifically.
Right.
How could they do that? Especially if you're a
Please
woman.
No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely. I'm on social media. I'm kind of hesitant about allowing people on my Facebook because that's really for my family and family friends. So like if I don't know you, I'm probably not going to allow you onto my Facebook.
What's the best place to
so I am on Instagram. It is H out of Compton, H Outta, like gangsters. So you don't say it like a white person, like H out of Compton. It is H Outta. So HOUTTACOMPTON.
H out of Compton.
H out of Compton. Yep, that's on Instagram.
Find her on Instagram, guys.
Yeah, and then just start shooting me DMs, but don't get offended at my stories because they're funny. To me. Anyway.
Everyone's like, oh man, I've just opened up a can of worms.
Crickets.
Yeah. All right. So, hey, thank you for doing that. Hey, and if you want to join the podcast here at Pastor Plek's podcast, you should text us 737-231-0605. We finally got PastorPlek.com off the ground thanks to Melanie. Woo-hoo. And a lot of work that she's been doing. And it's very basic right now. So if you want to share that with your friends. And we're also on YouTube.
I'm so jazzed that the videos are going up on YouTube.
Like, there's 0 views right now because we just got them up.
But there's going to be one in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, so make sure you share this podcast with all your friends. Put it all over your social medias and reels and stories.
Share.
And shorts. Put it everywhere you can. Would love to get more feedback and help people really talk faith, culture, and everything in between. Thank you, SOC, for your time, and excited for what God's going to do through you at our church and through your business.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have an awesome day of worship.